How's it going, folks? Recording another best ball video here. This is the $1 million first prize guaranteed best ball mania on Underdog. So it looks like we are pick number 10. So probably be hoping for like a Cam Akers down that away. Maybe a Tyreek Hill. Somebody like that. Followed up with somebody like Diggs, Eckler, Aaron Jones. It's a little too high for me to take Joe Mixon. Just actually got my first Joe Mixon share in this format, but I got it at the 2.7 where I was much more comfortable and happy to get him. I'm going to turn this light off. All right, so there will be less glare for anyone watching. So we've started off, of course, McCaffrey going first, Dalvin Cook second. So yeah, trying to concentrate on getting a few more stacks that I'm interested in getting. One being a Dak stack, and I think that this is a pretty decent place to kind of shoot for it. Being down at the 110. Some other stack I have some interest in is like a Justin Fields stack with Allen Robinson and Mooney, or Allen Robinson and Kmet. But I pretty much haven't been drafting Justin Fields just because I don't think he's going to start week one. I don't really like drafting quarterbacks that aren't going to start week one. One obvious big exception we're making this year is Trey Lance, because Trey Lance plays Houston week 17, and that could be the $1 million winning type performance that week. So we are heavily drafting Trey Lance despite the fact we don't think he's going to start week one. And that he may even have like a slightly prolonged time until he gets to start. It could be like 6 or 8 weeks. Did have a really good discussion with another smart best ball player, and he was only drafting 2 running backs on his teams where he took Trey Lance. He had some good arguments. I still wouldn't do it, but he is a lot more optimistic about when Lance is going to start his first game. I think it's going to take like at least a month. I mean, obviously, maybe Lance just beats Jimmy G out in training camp. They cut Jimmy G, and then that guy is rolling in the dough, but I just don't have enough information that can really lead me to believe that that's going to happen. The information I have so far leads me to believe that that's not going to be the case. Therefore, I'm going to just take Cam Akers here. It's a pretty easy pick when you're at 10. It's Tyreek Hill or Cam Akers. So fine, taking an Akers share there at 10. I like him more than Chubb and Eckler and Diggs and Aaron Jones. I mean, not by some huge amount, but basically, like everyone that went by pick 8, I like more, and then my next tier is Tyreek Hill and Akers. Those guys seem to go 9, 10. So we got 3 picks until our next pick. Probably going to shoot for someone we don't have a ton of ownership on here. Trying to start to diversify a bit now that I've gotten more and more teams. Love to get a Nick Chubb share, but I don't think that's happening. So we're probably going to take Austin Eckler because I haven't drafted him much at all. I think maybe I lied. We are going to take Nick Chubb. Didn't think that would be possible for us to get Chubb Akers. It's really important when you have someone fall a little bit there that you take that guy. It's not really super important for ADP, but it's important for like your team construction, right? So like the fact that I was able to get an Akers Chubb, like in the draft where I took Mixon at the 2-7, I was able to get Mixon Taylor. That's like going to be a more unique combo because like you're going to have less opportunities to draft that, right? You're going to get more opportunities to draft Akers and Eckler than you are going to get to draft Akers and Chubb. So it's important that you take some of these higher ADP guys, even if you like them like less. If you're going to have a ton of entries into this tournament, you want some diversity to, the players you have on certain teams. So starting off, Akers Chubb is fantastic. I am a little bit going to try to force a Dallas passing stack, but I mean, you can't force what isn't given to you, so I'm not really going to, I guess, less force it. I'm looking for it, staying open to it. It is in the front of my mind. Pretty much not going to get any of the big three tight ends where we're picking, and that's fine. So probably going to try to shoot for a Pitts or Hawkinson, someone like that, and Mark Andrews. And if like those kind of three dudes go off the board, I go into a bit of a tight end punt mode. I don't mind Fant, but I don't really like him that much more than Higbee, who goes quite a bit later. So still on Irv Smith, but it's sounding a little less optimistic that Irv Smith's going to take this big leap that we're kind of hoping for him to take. I think that we may be overvaluing him a bit. So nothing too crazy. Darren Waller at the 2.7s, like a little earlier than usual. I do prefer Kittle to Waller this year, but I'm to the point where I have enough Kittle that like I gotta kind of take some Waller over Kittle now. I like Kittle better just because, like, one, I just think he has a higher ceiling, the yardage and stuff. And if Kittle ever has like a season where he breaks right as far as touchdowns go, and he gets like 8 touchdowns, 5, that's going to be huge. I also like the fact, Kittle has a huge smash week opportunity, championship week for the $1 million against that Houston defense, which I expect to be absolutely terrible. I think Houston might have the worst position group in the league at, pardon me, every single position with the exception of offensive line. Like, they might have the worst group of running backs, the worst group of wide receivers, the worst group of quarterbacks, assuming Deshaun Watson is out the whole year, the worst run defense, the worst pass defense. They're certainly like near the bottom in like all these categories. So the last line I saw for Houston over under wins was 4.5, and I would easily go under 4.5. If it hits 3.5, still probably go under, but I don't think it's like a must bet. At 4.5, I feel like it's just like, give me, I'm in. I'm betting that 100% of the time. So CeeDee Lamb goes before we even get to our third pick, so that's going to kind of neuter our chances for this Dallas stack that we wanted. We could still, grab Amari Cooper. It's really gotten really hard to get Cooper and Lamb because Lamb is just going, I feel like he's just going too high. Like, I would just not take Lamb over Michael Thomas. I mean, obviously Lamb could have a better year, but he's just getting a little too rich for my blood. So we definitely have some interest in Swift or Carson if they were to fall to us. Tiny bit in Miles Sanders. I don't like the situation there with that offensive line. I think Philly's offensive line is going to be a fucking disaster. It's really old. Really not good. So interested to see what these guys take. Allen Robinson was kind of one guy I was hoping would drop to us, so it's fairly annoying. So I'm pretty much on Amari Cooper or a running back here. Amari Cooper would leave us open to a Dak stack, just not a Dak, Lamb, and Cooper stack. Slightly frustrating. I just feel like the value is by far the best on DeAndre Swift on this board. Really don't think we'll have too many opportunities to build this running back crew with like this 3 specific people, so I'm going to take that opportunity. And I will let Cooper slide, and that kind of sucks. Also, like, the people behind us hadn't drafted a single running back, so it's kind of hoping that they might take some, but they are heavy on the 0 RBs, and they're not going to be taking RBs. Guess we could have taken Cooper there and ended up with David Montgomery, and that would have been pretty okay. Yeah, this whole group is just not going to take a running back. Interesting. Feeling we Could take Julio. Could take Robert Woods. Could take some Julio here. Maybe look for a Tannehill, Julio, Ferkster stack, or just, Tannehill, Julio, late round, Josh Reynolds. I still think Josh Reynolds will do something in slot games, obviously. Definitely not like any sort of pick that excites you. So I'm not looking to draft Josh Reynolds, but if I'm stacking Tannehill and the other options are gone, I'm okay with taking Josh Reynolds with one of my last 2 picks. Other than that, no interest in him. But this could be a situation where we are interested in him. This is a pretty interesting team. Would I rather have Cooper and David Montgomery than Swift and Julio? I think I would. So I think if I had that pick to go back, I would take Cooper over DeAndre Swift. Especially since maybe we could have got Cooper and DeAndre Swift, since the people behind us are just heavy zero running back players. So in this draft, we're probably going to try to shoot to only draft one more running back. Something to keep in mind is some of the guys that we like to take as our 4th running back were kind of blocked by bye weeks here. So like Nick Chubb is the same bye week as A.J. Dillon. So we want to keep in mind that we're not really wanting to draft A.J. Dillon as our 4th running back. Like if we go 5, that's fine to have him. But I do not like to go 4 running backs and have 2 at the same bye week. So on the same thing, we have DeAndre Swift. So we really don't want to be drafting Fournette or Ronald Jones as our last running back because they share bye week with Swift. So we got to keep in mind that like there's some guys that we would normally be okay with taking our 4th running back that are kind of out of commission based on bye weeks for this group. Can't always pivot and go to 5 running backs, but I think with us using the draft capital of rounds 1, 2, 3, we prefer to stay to 4. So we might look for like one of the Denver guys. Actually, they share bye week with Cam Akers, so that's kind of brutal. Maybe one of the Buffalo guys, I guess. Zach Moss, Michael Carter, Trey Sermon's a week 6 guy. So there are other options out there. So we got the 49ers guys as option, the Buffalo's guys as options for our 4th running back. The Jets guys, but by the Jets guys, I mean just Michael Carter because I'm not drafting any of the other Jets guys. And I don't even like Michael Carter that much. I like him way less than his ADP. I like Michael Carter about as much as I like Zach Moss, who's way cheaper. I kind of feel like they're like very similar, except that we kind of saw that Zach Moss could get, some touchdowns if he were to stay healthy somehow, which is not really his thing. He is not a man that likes to stay healthy. A lot of really good value at running back still. I'm interested to see how many of those dudes get scooped up along the way. People are hammering wide receiver. Good strategy. I do like the 0 RB myself, or the hero RB. So that's kind of the new 0 RB is hero RB. What's the difference between the two? Hero RB is more like I grab one workhorse running back and then go 0 RB, as opposed to the pure 0 RB, which we saw, the guys at the end of me in slots 11 and 12 where they went actual 0 RB and took 4 wide receivers to start their drafts. I'm pretty interested in Galladay or Ayuk if either of those guys get to us. This Dreamtown USA guy started off 4 running backs. I wonder who he has as his 4. Zeke, Mixon, Dobbins, and David Montgomery. Not too bad. Yeah, so he reached for Galladay. I don't think we'll get Ayuk, so we're going to be in just a really tough spot at our pick. Really, really tough spot for our pick in this next one. Don't think there's any value left at wide receiver after Brandon Ayuk, who I do not expect to make it to us. So we'll assess here. We could go with Etienne, I guess. Ugh, don't want that. I don't think Hawkinson's a terrible pick. There's just, you can't take any of these guys at wide receiver. There's just absolutely no value on them. This is a brutal spot. Hawkinson or Mark Andrews? I have tons more Hawkinson, so let's just go ahead and take Mark Andrews. I'm pretty decent about that pick. Don't hate getting Mark Andrews there. It's not fantastic, but it's all right. I just knew that Ayuk wasn't getting to us there, and we were in a world of hurt at wide receiver after that. So we still do have some pretty decent options available at the running back position if we want them. We could do something a little strange and take our second tight end if neither of these guys takes Hawkinson. Not something I like to do, but so yeah, here we see a little running back run. Other options are like Chase Claypool, Cortland Sutton. Take Chase Claypool. It's like a very like boom bust, decent type of player for best ball. Don't super love that pick. I mean, it's not too far away from where I like drafting him, but more of like an end of round 6 guy for me. So I think we did all right there getting Andrews and Claypool. I mean, those picks were not exciting, but it's kind of just the way it broke for us. Like the end of a tier happened with Ayuk, so we kind of took a guy that's just whatever the next tier in Claypool. But we did get a tight end that was the top of his remaining tier between Andrews, Hawkinson, and Kyle Pitts. Like Pitts is the top of that tier for me, but he was gone. So getting one of Hawkinson or Andrews was all right. Definitely just took Andrews because I own more Hawkinson. Hawkinson was going quite a bit later, early in these drafts, so because of that, I just have a higher ownership percentage on him. I pretty much only have had Andrews on teams with Lamar. And, I will not have Lamar on this team, that's for sure. Somebody's going to get a really, really good value on Travis Etienne here. I do not mind James Robinson as my 4th running back. I think James Robinson's going to have a pretty decent-sized role. I do understand why Etienne is falling, because I do think his role will be limited this year, but I also think he still has value. Like, he doesn't need a huge role to hit his value. We pretty much don't have much interest in stacking Big Ben, but Juju were to make it back to us, that would be something that we could go for. Juju being below Michael Gallup is fucking ridiculous. Juju is just so undervalued. Last year he finishes, like wide receiver like 17 or something when he was terrible. Still fucking pretty good. And you can't imagine that things would go much worse than they did last year for Juju, right? He had like 14 fewer points than A.J. Brown last year. Now, I'm not saying I would want him anywhere near where I want A.J. Brown. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying he shouldn't fucking be going behind Michael Gallup and Deebo Samuel. That's kind of absurd. So I got 7 picks to us. For running backs, what do we have an eye on? Some interest in Etienne and Mostert. The San Francisco running backs with that Week 17 matchup with Houston is very, very nice. Would like to prioritize wide receiver, but we're going to have to see what options are given to us, because everyone picking wide receiver heavy early on has like kind of made the values not super there at this point. Hurts in this round would be a fine pick. He's like a very good round 7-8 guy. Justin Herbert, fine pick. I think with my team, I'm not super interested in those two guys. Etienne finally went off at the 7-4. Pretty freaking good value on him. So we got 3 more picks before us. I'm interested to see where these guys go with their picks. Curtis Samuel was not someone where like, how can you take Curtis Samuel over Juju? Jesus Christ. See if we get sniziped again. This guy already has 2 quarterbacks, too. That's very strange. Nice. We're going to take Juju, but I'm going to look at who this guy's 2 quarterbacks are. Mahomes, Kyler. Yeah, I probably just wouldn't use that much draft capital on quarterback. But we're going to take Juju, so I guess we will somewhat be open to drafting Big Ben as our 3rd quarterback. Definitely liked the value on Juju there. I have kind of some interest in one of these 3 running backs, Mostert, Carter, or Damian Harris. None of them conflict with our bye week issues. It'd be really hard to not take Jalen Hurts if he's still here at this pick. Russell Gage in round 8. Are you fucking drugs? Whew. As much as I like these picks, I'm just going to take Jalen Hurts. I like the value on the running backs there, but I like the value on round 8 Jalen Hurts more. So we might take a look at a Philly wide receiver a little bit later. Some interest in like a Zach Moss type of guy. Gus Edwards is like another guy I like. You know, like he'll be solid. Plus, if something happens to Dobbins, then obviously he goes nuts. But he doesn't need a Dobbins injury to get in your lineup some weeks, which is very, very nice. Let's take a look at wide receiver. It's kind of. I just want to see how far down Jalen Reagor had gotten ADP. It's pretty far down there, so could maybe look to grab him to go with Hurts. I do have a few Hurts stacks with Smith and Reagor, which is obviously optimal. But, I mean, Hurts is adding so much with his legs, it's fine just stacking him with, like, one piece. Pretty much all. I don't expect any of those running backs that we passed on to make it back to us, so we'll be kind of hoping for something like Zach Moss for our 4th running back. We also need to keep an eye out because we kind of want to grab Tannehill if we can, but he might go before our next pick. There's a very good chance of that. Tony Pollard is another guy who doesn't conflict by weeks that I have some interest in. Tony Pollard, gets used just enough that he scores some touches, kind of like similar to Gus Edwards, but he gets used enough to get in your lineup without an injury, and like that's really what you want from your running backs. Once you're drafting those like pure handcuffs that are just flat out fucking zeros every week, it's really not where you want to be. Like an injury, yeah, and those guys can kind of explode, but you're just like never gonna have that high in ownership percentage on them. It's not like last year where we had, like Gibson early that we knew like, oh fuck, this guy's gonna have a real opportunity, or James Robinson once Fournette had been cut became like a glaring value. Like there just like isn't guys like that. To try to pick out which one of a million guys it's going to be is just really difficult. So we currently have interest in Goddard to go with Jalen Hurts, Tannehill to go with Julio. Goddard off the board. We have interest in Zach Moss, Tony Pollard, James Conner, not Melvin Gordon because of the bye week issue, Gus Edwards. So there's like still, enough running backs. We don't really have to take a running back this round. There's still enough we have interest in. We could wait and kind of let them go to the end, depending how many go here. Pittman, interesting. Yeah, I'm probably not going to force this Jalen Reagor to go with Hurts. So I think we'll miss out on him, unfortunately. So we get kind of our eye on like Tannehill, Zach Moss, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards, Elijah Moore. Seeing as both the people behind me don't have a quarterback, I'm going to take Tannehill. So we've got our Tannehill and Julio stack raring to go. So we're going to try to hold off on taking our third QB for a very long time. Kind of going to target Ben Roethlisberger when he's about going off the board-ish. So at this point, we are looking at Zach Moss, Connor, Pollard, Gus Edwards. Not A.J. Dillon because of the bye week issues. Zach Moss one, that kind of stinks. So we are interested in Connor or Pollard. I think Connor has a higher floor. I think I'll just take Connor here. He's a guy I basically don't have any shares of. It's fine. I have new shares of Connor, so we don't really need to take any more running backs. Seeing as we took 3 in our first 3 rounds, and now we've got Connor. That is going to be it for us at the running back position. For stacking purposes, basically the only thing on our radar is to pick up Ben Roethlisberger if we can at value. It's really hard when you're getting down to those guys that go in later rounds because sometimes people just pick your guy ahead of their ADP by a good amount and then you're screwed. But we will keep an eye out to maybe be open to Ben Roethlisberger, who's also a guy I have maybe 0 ownership on in these. Maybe 1 share, 0 or 1 share. So that's how many I have of him in this tournament. We want to keep an eye out to take a second tight end, but not really a pressing matter. We would like to get Jalen Reagor when it's our next pick, but I don't think that he'll be there when it's our next pick. So I would assume that he is not going to be available for us. We could have taken him instead of a Connor, but then I think we would have been out of the running backs where we were comfortable having 4. We would have been into the very, very pure handcuff. I guess Naheem Hines might have made it to us. He's some guy that I don't mind taking. I'm a little interested to see what happens though now because Marlon Mack back in the picture. Hines' role could be not what it was. They also have a coaching change. Not a coaching change, a quarterback change. But, Wentz is thrown to running backs. Decent amount in the past. Was very, very, very bad at it last year. But I think most people are working under the assumption that last year was a freak incident for Wentz and that he is not quite that garbage. I do think he's closer to that garbage than great, but that was some supreme garbage. This guy on the clock only has one running back, so he's going hero RB. Good pickup in A.J. Dillon. He's got McLaurin, Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Visca. So he's got a pretty good Burrow stack there with Boyd and Higgins. Oh, I don't like the triple stack. This is shown to have a very poor win percentage. When you go past 2 pass catchers for a quarterback, it actually shows a negative win percentage for you. So I generally just don't do that. Makes sense because then basically every week that team doesn't do well, and I mean Cincinnati's gonna have a lot of weeks that they don't do well. Every week that team doesn't do well, your whole fucking roster is just eating shit. What is that? Your quarterback and 3 of your top 5 wide receivers. So I don't like those super stacks. I kind of stay away from them. I don't think it's necessarily an impossible for that strategy to work. Just from what I've seen in research, it doesn't seem to work. So I'm not just not that interested in it. So we are 6 picks away. A couple tight ends, still 3 tight ends on the board that are pretty reasonable here. Before you get into the Troutman, there's Ingram. Yeah, I don't want to be taking this David Johnson tier. Darrell Henderson over Melvin Gordon. Come on, man. That's just terrible. Don't love Melvin Gordon myself, but he's undervalued right now in these drafts. If he was to hit his ceiling where, say they traded for Aaron Rodgers and then basically just wanted Melvin Gordon to be in there, making sure the pass protection was good for Aaron Rodgers, Melvin Gordon's ceiling could still be extremely, extremely high. I have been taking a good bit of him at value. Big pick for us here. Nice. We did actually get Jalen Rager on the back. Sweet. So we got Rager to go with Hurts, and we have Julio to go with Tannehill. I mean, not overly excited to pick Rager in general, but with Devonta Smith already off the board, Goddard already off the board, and no real interest in stacking anyone after those guys, I was happy to do it. So what do we got left at wide receiver? We're not going to pick quarterback. So tight end, wide receiver. I think the tight ends on the board are a lot better than the wide receivers on the board. Gesicki or Irv Smith or Evan Ingram? Well, I've been getting some Evan Ingram because I've been picking up a lot of. I'm going to take Gesicki. He's a guy I just don't have very many shares of. And then we're all done with tight end. These wide receivers, this whole next group is kind of the same to me. I didn't really see any point in taking a wide receiver with that pick. Quarterback, we're still going to wait quite a while and sort of try to get Ben Roethlisberger. If we miss on him, maybe get a Derek Carr as our third quarterback. We did use decent draft capital on a quarterback, but like I said, this year, since we're going lighter on running backs, we're going to generally draft 3 quarterbacks every time that it makes sense. There will be a few drafts where just it falls and we just can't do it because there will be no value on the third quarterback. I did have that happen one time where I was all set up for a Denver stack, so I took my third quarterback as Drew Lock. I mean, I think he might not even start week 1. But I just felt if somebody's going to produce a ceiling for the pass catchers in Denver, it's not going to be Teddy Bridgewater. So you may as well stack Lock with them and hope some miracle happens where he figures it out, which ain't fucking happening. But it's a lot of times you say things aren't fucking happening and then they happen. Brock Osweiler winning people $1 million in DraftKings against the Chicago Bears defense when it was pretty good. The Osweiler / don't even remember the guy's name. Wilson or whatever, the wide receiver that was the slot wide receiver for the Dolphins, who went off that week. So we're really not going to be looking at quarterback this next round. probably just kind of click that off. I feel like Traquan Smith's ADP is a little bit too much for me. I do have interest in Christian Kirk, Brian Edwards, Jamison Crowder. I have a little interest in Rashad Perryman too. It's not a guy I've really gotten any of. Not that I really particularly need Rashad Perryman. But he's a guy I'd like to have more shares of than I have, which is like 0 to 1. I like him more than I like Amon Ra. There goes Perryman. See, we got an eye on Kirk, Crowder, Jacoby Myers, Brian Edwards. Still quite a few picks until last. I like De'Ami Brown some. I like Kadarius Toney quite a bit. Quarterbacks are starting to roll off the board, but this is still going to be too early for us. We're going to probably have to wait until around 15 if we're taking Roethlisberger. Unless, like, the wide receiver value just gets absolutely fucking obliterated to the point where it makes no sense. Denzel Mims is, like, fallen and fallen and fallen. I still have, like, so many shares that it's hard for me to take any shares even at this price. But soon I need to start considering it. The reports coming out from him are just really bad. He's not working with the first team. Corey Davis has already hurt his shoulder, so that is something in his favor. A ton of QBs went off the board this round. Still Tua, Baker, Wentz. There's just no way I'm considering taking Ben Roethlisberger at this point, so could take Tua to go with Gesicki, but it doesn't really interest me much. Also, Tua same bye week with Jalen Hurts, and we do not take quarterbacks at the same bye week. Can I just take Christian Kirk here? It doesn't super excite me, but I feel like he's like undervalued, especially for best ball. He's kind of like a boom bust type of dude, which is not the worst. Next pick, we're really going to be interested in Edwards, Crowder, Myers, De'Ami Brown, a little bit in Tyrell, a little bit in Kadarius Toney. All right, I have definitely less Crowder than I have of all these other guys, so take a Crowder share. Am I excited about a Crowder share? No, I am not. But that's probably my first Crowder share, and I have many Brian Edwards, Jacoby Myers, and Denzel Mims shares. I got a few De'Ami Browns, so maybe I should have given him a little bit more consideration there. But I'd rather have like my first Crowder share than my what I believe would be fourth De'Ami Brown share in this tournament. So not too much left on the stacking area. We could take Josh Reynolds with like one of our last two picks if we want to go with Tannehill, but that'll only happen if we feel like all the options are terrible. So we'll just pick the stack option that's terrible as opposed to the non-stack option that's terrible. A lot of our guys that we like are going off the board here. To be expected since we're looking at the top of the board. Quarterback, Mayfield and Tua went off, so basically we're kind of just, if Roethlisberger's there with one of our next two picks, we're interested, and if he's not, then we will see if any other human quarterback is alive for us to pick. And if not, then I guess we are stuck going with two quarterbacks. Might take like a Taysom Hill share even, because I really only want Taysom Hill when I'm not stacking Taysom Hill, because if I'm stacking Saints, I want to assume that Winston's a starter so that pass catchers can actually hit their ceilings. So, like, pretty much if I'm drafting Michael Thomas, I'm just not going to end up with Taysom Hill because I'm trying to take Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston will probably throw for, 4,600 to 4,800 yards, where Taysom Hill will probably throw for like 32 to 3,500 yards. A little bit of a bummer seeing Tony go off the board there. He's a guy you can sometimes get kind of late. One of the late round wide receivers I really like is Nico Collins from Houston. I think he could end up as the 1A-ish type guy to Brandon Cooks' 1B-ish type. I mean, I think Cooks would have better stats, obviously, but Cooks has just always kind of been like a beta wide receiver. So he's somebody we'll look for late. Dwayne Eskridge interests me a bit. Like his downfield abilities with Russell Wilson. As far as like Valdez Scantling, Amari Rogers, and the other Green Bay guy there, I have like lukewarm interest in them. The Lazard King. Yeah, Denzel Mims might be just falling to the point where he's too much value to not take. Like, it's quite the situation. Pardon me. Like, talent-wise, there's no reason for this to be happening. Situation-wise, I understand completely why it's happening, that he's falling so much. But if that situation were to change, like if Corey Davis's shoulder sprain was to keep up or something like that, like, God, I can't see them playing like Keelan Cole over minutes, right? But you never know. Could still just be, Corey Davis, Moore, and Crowder. And then Mims is out of the picture. Definitely not taking that. I'm going to take Dwayne Eskridge here. Just don't have any shares of him yet, and rather like him in that offense. That really hurt to take him over Denzel Mims. Here goes Roethlisberger. That is kind of stinky, but I think there's just like way better options at quarterback, so it is what it is. So, if we take Zach Wilson, we have Jamison Crowder. Kind of stuck at like no stack pieces for some of these other guys. So we'll do that. So yeah, we only have one stack piece for Wilson where we had two stack pieces for Ben, so it's a little bit annoying, but I mean, I think Wilson is just enough more interesting to me in fantasy than Ben. It's fine. Also, kind of wish we would have taken Mims instead of Eskridge if we were going to end up with Zach Wilson, but I was pretty convinced that we would end up with Ben. So yeah, we have at least one stack piece for all of our quarterbacks, so it's nice. We've got Rager, we've got Julio, we've got Jamison Crowder. Guys I'm interested in with my last pick are, KJ Hamler, Josh Reynolds. It's if we end up having to pick from the bottom of the barrel. Nico, but I don't think Nico will make it to us. Things could have went a little bit better for us in this draft, but not too terrible. So we got Hurts, Tannehill, Wilson, Akers, Chubb, Swift, Connor, Julio, Chase Claypool, Juju, Rager, Kirk, Crowder, and Eskridge. Still got 13 more picks until our next pick. Anything bye week wise we need to look out for at wide receiver? Not really. Rather not take another bye week 7 guy, but it's not that big a deal. You can have 3. 3 is my limit, though. I will not go to 4. Not even when I am going wide receiver heavy. Still 10 more picks to us. Guys on my radar are Mims, Hamler, Nico Collins, and Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds, the least of which, but above 0. Guy ain't taking Adam Humphries over a guy like Denzel Mims or Byron Pringle. 6 picks left for us. Pretty interesting crew. There goes Mims finally. Would have been kind of sweet if he had made it all the way back to us, but I was not too optimistic about that happening. Winston off the board. It's pretty good value getting Winston at the 17-6. Well, we got like at least one wide receiver pick here that we like between Nico and KJ Hamler. That hurt. Preferred Nico, but we will grab our KJ Hamler and move on with life. So probably looking at Marcus Callaway or Josh Reynolds. I think I would use, the tiebreaker of having Tannehill to just take Josh Reynolds. None of these other people seem like remarkably better in any way, so. So yeah, we'll grab Josh Reynolds with our last pick. Very unexciting last pick, but tis what it is. So we ended up with Hurts, Tannehill, Zach Wilson. Got at least one stacking piece for each. Got 2 for Tannehill, although one of them was a very weak piece. Akers, Chubb, Swift, Connor. Pretty good running back group. Julio, Chase Claypool, Juju, Jalen Rager, Kirk, Jamison Crowder, Eskridge, KJ Hamler, and Josh Reynolds. Like a decent but unspectacular wide receiver group. And we got Andrews Kosicki, which is just fine for our tight ends. So all in all, I think I would rate this team like a B+. Like the only position I'm not super thrilled with is wide receiver, and I mean wide receiver is good. It's just like not great. So that'll do it for this one. Good luck in your draft, folks.